Due to quite a few comments regarding Fafnir, I felt the need to pitch in on the topic if new releases should be OP or not. Quite a few people here are convinced that new releases have to be OP. There have been previous videos on this topic by Rainday and DM Brennan, and I will try and address both their points in this video. Point number 1. OP creates hype. That is correct, but the opposite can also be stated. Only those who initially show interest in the god will actually be hyped. Those who don't like the god will not be hyped and will be pissed that a new god is so strong and they don't like playing him. However, good design and cool ability kits for gods or characters in general will always create hype. For example, Fafnir is gonna create a lot of hype simply because he's a dragon. Even if he was completely underpowered, people would still want to play him just because he's a dragon. Point number 2, you get more feedback for balance. That's true, but you get more feedback for balance because you need more feedback for balance because you need to balance the character more than you would if you released a balanced character in the first place. And once again, community feedback will be there as long as the character is played. Being OP doesn't mean that the character is necessarily played a lot. The design of the character being great will mean that the character will be played a lot, regardless of his power. That obviously implies that the character can't be vastly underpowered. Point number 3, an OP character is talked about. I don't agree. I think a character will be talked about after release regardless of the state he's in. If a character is underpowered, people will talk about how he could be made stronger in order to be fixed. If he's overpowered, people are going to talk about nerfs. And if the character is balanced, people are going to try and find out a way to break the character and make him OP. If the character is balanced, there will also be plenty of videos of people trying to tell you the ideal way to build the character and get the most out of him. Point number 4. A balanced new god will feel weak in comparison to a balanced old god. That's why he has to be strong in the beginning. This logic is based on the fact that you didn't have time to practice the new god yet, while you had plenty of time to practice the old god. However, the same can be said for your opponent as well. Your opponent has practice on the god he's playing, but he has no practice on the god he's playing against. Doesn't know how to counterplay him, how to counterpick him, and so on and so on. So in the end, this evens out. Point number 5. An OP character will be played more by pros. That is true, but it's not necessarily a good thing. If a new character stays OP for a longer period of time, pros will try to break him more and more and more, leading to the character being played on the highest levels all the time. This means in the SPL, for example, you would always see the same god or always see the same god banned. And that's not fun, that's boring, that's not interesting at all and doesn't create any hype if you've seen the matchup like 3 times already. Point number 6. Pros will release more gameplay or builds. It's actually pretty rare that pros even do that in the first place. Some pros release builds from time to time and some pros make videos, but the vast majority of them streams at best. So the ones that will make these videos are usually YouTubers. YouTubers, however, will make videos of the new god regardless of its power, simply because they know that their viewers want to see what the new god does and they're going to watch the videos. Point number 7. First impressions are hard to overcome. Well, first of all, this would mean that balanced gods wouldn't really be a problem because the first impression of a balanced god is that he is a balanced god. However, I can't necessarily agree with the point anyways. Jing Wei was relatively weak when she was released and the only hype around her was her very unique kit. But she still saw a little bit of play. After she got buffs and she was played in the SPL, she was picked a lot more, even in casuals. So her first impression in terms of OPness really didn't matter all that much. The examples named in Rainday's video don't really apply. He named Nox and Raven and both were simply still weak after they got a few buffs. They'd never made it to a decent level of play where they would be considered balanced by most players. So it didn't really matter that they were weak in the first place, they just stayed weak until their reworks. Ratatosk, however, was OP, very OP in the beginning, and then saw nerfs, and according to this logic, people would still pick him up a lot simply because he was OP in the beginning. But that wasn't the case. For a very long time, Ratatosk was hardly picked by anyone. Even in the SPL, only Devios and DJ Pernicus picked him up a few times. Point number 9. The sales or marketing perspective. If you have an OP god, people are probably going to buy him and they are probably going to buy skins for that character as well because they want to keep playing him, knowing that he will get nerfed eventually, but most people don't even think that far. However, this is only a short-term benefit. In the long run, if you constantly release OP characters or characters that are so far upon the point of balance that they're annoying for other players. This will actually drive players away because they will be annoyed with the fact that whenever a new god comes out, you can't play casuals anymore. You have to play ranked if you want to ban him or not see him by being auto-banned. And yeah, that's just freaking annoying, and that's nothing anyone would want in the long run. So it can actually hurt your sales if you do it too much and too often. So in conclusion, what's my thought on the power of a god on release? In my personal opinion, I think a god should never be below the point of balance. This has just too many bad impacts on the game, because then you actually don't get balanced feedback, and it's going to be really problematic to get the character to a state that makes him good enough, even if the character has a great design otherwise. However, I don't think gods have to be OP. Ideally, a god should be release balanced, and people will break him somehow eventually anyways, because they find an item that works especially well with the character and it wasn't intended to work that way or whatever. However, it's kinda hard to release a character on perfect balance when you have limited tools to do so before. So what I think is, it's good if a character is released slightly above balance, slightly above the average character. That way you can be sure that people want to play him. You have the option to tone the character down a little bit, and you won't annoy other people by having a completely broken character. The character will probably be broken somehow at some point most of the time, but in that moment you should just find a fix for that. However, the character should also not be strong enough to constantly be picked. It's really annoying if you have mirror matches for weeks after releasing a new character, because mirror matches are hardly ever fun. Therefore, I'm of the opinion that especially early nerfs are important. Before a character even gets to ranked and gets open for ranked, that character should probably have seen some small nerfs in most situations already, unless the character is drastically underperforming. It is extremely frustrating when a character makes it into ranked while still being too strong, because it automatically takes one of your bans away. This becomes even more frustrating when the character that was released before the last one still isn't completely balanced, because then 2 of your bans are already gone most of the time, and that just makes ranked environments very annoying and kind of unstable. That's my opinion on the topic. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you for watching. Duke out.